12 minutes before 7 o'clock, before 8 Mountain Time. That bulge in the population, well, it just keeps sliding along. This year, the first wave of baby boomers turned 65. Some of them have already retired. Others will be working much longer. But for many, 65 represents the end of the working life. And to find out what it means financially, we're joined by Rick Singh. He's a financial advisor who specializes in retirement planning and seniors. Good morning to you, Rick.
Good morning, Stephen.
Now, from what you see, how many 65-year-olds are actually financially ready to retire?
Quite frankly, it's surprising. We would think that a lot of them are not, but I would say roughly about 65% of Canadians who are age 65 are ready to retire. What's interesting, though, is that even though we're talking about this bulge at age 65 of people retiring, the average age of retirees in BC is 61.2 years. So a lot of people are still choosing to retire early. So to me, that's saying that they're ready for it.
And when people approach you, what's the first thing they say when they walk in and say, okay, let's talk about retirement. I'm going to turn 65, or, I mean, people obviously consider it much earlier in life than that. But when people are actually ready to make the move to retirement, what is there to talk about?
Well, actually, it's a good question because the biggest thing is a lot of people know what they're retiring from. One of the things I'm finding out is people don't know what they're retiring to. And I think what I mean by that is that in the past, if they thought about their parents and their grandparents, when they retired, they did sort of very simple things. But retirement, the definition has changed significantly, and people are living longer. So given that people living 20 to 25 years longer today than, back in the early 1900s or 1930s, they're concerned, will my money last, or what I have, will it last for a long time? And that seems to be the biggest concern.
For many of them, does retirement mean not working at all, or does it mean leaving a job that they may have had for decades and, freelancing or doing some consulting on the side or that kind of thing?
The definition of retirement has changed in Canada and around the developed world, and given that people are living longer, people are choosing to work actually part-time to fill that 9-to-5 void so that there's still something meaningful in their life. And it's not because they have to in most cases, but because they want to. However, there is that group that isn't prepared for retirement, and they still do need to be working to supplement their income. One of the other things that we're seeing is that seniors are the fastest users of the internet today for a variety of reasons. And recently, Simon Fraser University did a piece talking about seniors going back to school, not necessarily to get a degree, but just to continue to learn. And organizations and institutions are actually catering to this group, given that they're a large group. And there's a need and demand for these sorts of services as they're retired.
So when people think that they can afford to retire, then what are we talking about here? I mean, you say most people don't know what they're retiring to. Obviously, what they retire to has to do with how much money they've managed to save.
That's correct. In fact, given that they don't know what they're retiring to, they have an idea of what they want to do in retirement. And one of the things that we find out is someone has the novel idea that when they retire, they're going to golf. Well, when you're retired, you really are retired, and you have 365 days to go shopping or to golf, and it's quite expensive. And I think one of the first things people find out in the first years of retirement is that they spend an awful lot of money just as if when they were working. And pretty soon things start to taper off down the road. However, one of the things that retirees don't take into consideration is that if they have budgeted for expenses of about $3,000 per month for a bare bones retirement, they forget the fact that at later years, because they're living longer, this health care issue comes into play. And a perfect example of that is my father-in-law lived to age 95, but he was in a long-term care facility from about age 82, and he was paying about $4,500 a month.
Yikes.
And yes, exactly. So people don't take that into consideration, and that's a significant part of a retirement plan. It's not just about paying for the golf. It's not just about the traveling. And I think a lot of people forget about that component in their retirement plan.
Rick, there's been a lot of talk lately about the Canada Pension Plan and changes to the pension plan. Where do you think it ought to go?
I like what the government is doing, given that people are staying in the workforce a little bit longer, and given that we do have somewhat of an issue with the ability to be able to pay significant amounts to this large group that's retiring now. So I like what the government has done with regards to if you delay taking your CPP until age 70 instead of taking it at age 65, you get a nice little bonus. So given that people are living longer, if you have some good longevity in your genes, you might want to, and you have the means to support yourself in the meantime to age 70, perhaps consider prolonging taking your CPP. And when you do take it at age 70, it's a significant lift. You will, with the new pension rules, you'll get about a 42% increase in your CPP versus if you were to take it at age 65. And conversely, what the government has done is they're trying to deter you from taking it at age 60, which you can do as a Canadian. But if you do that under the new rules, you'll actually be penalized, where in the old rules it used to be 30% going forward starting this year. If you were to take your pension early, after the full 5-year period, you'll be penalized by about 36%. So you get 36% less of what you're entitled to if you had waited to age 65.
Rick Singh, lots to think about. Fortunately, you and I have a couple of years yet, don't we?
Yes, we do indeed.
Oh, good.
And I thank you.
Thank you. You take care. Happy New Year.
Okay, Stephen, thank you, and you too.
Rick Singh, a financial advisor. We reached him in Surrey this morning, 5 minutes before 7 o'clock, before 8 Mountain Time on the early edition.